Hola, hola, amiga. Today we're diving deep into a topic that's simmered in our cultura for generations. The pressure on Latinas to be the ultimate chefs, the keepers of delicious family recipes, the masters de la cocina. And we all know the feeling, trying to figure out abuelita's secret ingredient for that arroz. Or how about la tia's bomb ass tamales that no one else can beat? It seems like every Latina has a family member whose cooking sets the bar pretty high. Am I right? And I often wonder, why do they put so much love in these foods? Like, aren't they busy? Don't they have other things to do? What keeps them motivated, really, to continue on with being the perfect cooks? Or at least that's how I see it. And I wonder, isn't it just okay to make a simple meal? Am I the only one that is kind of thinking this way? Like, am I the only one that is really not cooking to this super high standard of being the perfect cook? And even if I'm having these thoughts, I feel the sense of guilt. I feel like I am not woman enough, that I am not living to this standard as the perfect cook. And so in this episode, we'll explore the cultural roots of this pressure and unpack why we as Latinas feel like we constantly have to prove ourselves in the kitchen. We'll also discuss the historical and societal expectations placed on Latinas as nurturers and caregivers, the emotional burden of carrying on family traditions, the pressure to live up to the imagen de la mujer perfecta, and breaking free from these expectations and embracing a more joyful approach to cooking. And that ultimately leads to your overall well-being, especially if you are a mama. So grab your favorite cafecito or a glass of wine. There's no judgment here. And let's get real about the pressure cooker of cultural expectations. Welcome to the Viva la Mami podcast. I am your host, Jessica Cuevas. I am a mother of two on a mission to help redefine the meaning of madrehood as a modern Latina mom. Madrehood can be a complex journey, interwoven in two identities that often make us feel ni de aquí ni de allá. Viva la Mami is committed to providing you with knowledge, tools, and support to navigate the challenges and triumphs of madrehood as Latina moms. On the show, we'll be discussing culturally relevant topics that will help inform and empower you in whichever season you are in on your motherhood journey. We'll be joined by Latina moms, experts and professionals who can offer advice, practical tips, relatable stories, and honest conversations. So bring your cafecito as I invite you to be a part of this space as we create comunidad about the exciting and challenging parts of being a mommy. Ahora, vámonos. So I'm not sure if you can relate, but I come from a lineage of amazing cocineras. For example, mi bisabuela, who is still with us till this day, makes the best chiles rellenos con arroz mexicano. So both of these two staples in the Mexican cultura, like my mouth is literally salivating right now. Her chiles rellenos and her arroz, like honestly, no one cannot beat her recipe. And as much as my grandma, my mom, mis tías, like everyone in our family has tried to make her arroz mexicano, like no one can ever and will never be able to cook her type of arroz the way that she does. And as much as mi bisabuela has like tried to explain how she does it, like literally my grandma has mimicked every single step, it's still not the same. Yeah, that dish is just perfect. And then my abuelita makes the most delicious caldo de pollo. And then she makes these amazing tortillas hechas a mano. And when we went to Mexico and we stayed there for close to a month this past winter, she made us caldo de pollo. And honestly, like, it was so good. Like, I remember growing up and she would go to like a butcher and literally they would kill the bird in person, like in front of my face. And she would order, the certain parts, especially those patas de pollo, and that would freak me out. But she's like, this adds the flavor. And then she still has this like special way of like cooking el caldo de pollo with a potato. And she's like, you cannot chop that potato when you're boiling the water or when you're cooking el caldo because it's going to make it very thick and you don't want that. And so she has very specific, like really rituals in her making the caldo de pollo that I'm just like, yeah, no, I can't do this. And then my mom, she also makes this amazing sopa de albóndigas. And I seriously wanted her to make these for me when I was going through my postpartum period, la cuarentena. And she made these for me. And gosh, they are so amazing. And I've even had her make these like during the hot summer months. Like, I don't care if I'm sweating. Like this sopa de albóndigas are just so good. Like, she shapes them very well. Like, there's this consistency between the meat, but also like the rice that she cooks it with. She creates these meatballs, but she includes rice in them. And then I don't know what other spices, but oh my gosh, they're so amazing. And so these are all recipes that literally are in my memory and that I hold so true to my heart. And these are recipes that they obviously make in their own unique way, in their own unique process. And no one can replicate them really. But to be honest, I haven't yet mastered a dish where one would think of me. I just don't really have that passion to do something like this. And I don't think I ever will. And so I think I broke that sort of cycle. And the notion that I haven't claimed a dish yet is just telling, because not only am I in a different generation where we are exposed to different options in terms of the way that we want to be fed, whether if it's like getting our food delivered through Uber Eats or Grubhub, whatever those services are, or those subscription meal kits that are sent to you every week, like Blue Apron and HelloFresh. Okay. And by the way, these are not sponsored by any of these businesses whatsoever. But we have a lot of options where we often don't really think about creating meals that are so labor intensive. And I think it's because we are living in this different world where, yes, we are busy, but perhaps cooking isn't our priority necessarily because we want to do other things like playing with our kids or being involved in our personal lives or even professional lives. And for me, honestly, like, I don't spend too much time in the kitchen. Like, there are times when I like to cook, but that is usually when I follow a recipe. Okay, so Pinterest is my number one go-to whenever I feel like making a meal. And the way that we do it is that we plan in advance at the beginning of each week, usually on Sundays. We go grocery shopping and we already know what we're going to eat for the week. And there are some meals that I'm like, I'm going to cook because they look interesting and they're based on a recipe. But the other meals, like, my husband is the one that cooks for the most part. And that's because he enjoys it and he doesn't follow a recipe. It comes very natural to him to just create his own kind of flair. And yeah, like, for me, I am a recipe follower and I cannot be creative. And whenever I follow a recipe and if it doesn't go the way that it should, like, let's say I accidentally missed a step or something, I get so mad. Like, I have this like rage in the kitchen. And I'm just not about being creative. I'm just not about seeing like substitutes or alternatives. Like, no, that's just not me. And so I come to realize that I shouldn't live up to this expectation of being the perfect cook and being this sort of nurturer, if you will, in the kitchen, because this is just my personality, but also, like I said, I have other priorities that I prefer to just focus on than being in the kitchen. And if my husband likes to cook, then hey, you can be the best cook in the kitchen, whatever. And so for those of you who can live up to this sort of expectation to be the best cook, well, I'm here to tell you that you do not need to be a professional cook, nor you shouldn't put pressure on yourself. But I get it. There is a cultural expectation. And like how I mentioned, there are moments when I feel like this sense of guilt because I haven't yet mastered a specific dish where someone is going to remember me for it, or I cannot live up to those kinds of expectations that my bisabuela, abuela, and my mom have lived up to in the kitchen. So really, I had to come into terms of like being okay with that. And I'm okay if like my family praises my husband more because he is a good cook, which by the way, I think that that is so wrong. Just because like I still cook, like whatever dish I make, I think that it's good, right? Because first of all, it's a recipe. So obviously it has to be good. But it's interesting whenever Alex, my husband, cooks and, you know, we're cooking for our family, like he gets a big praise and it's like, okay, like, come on, you know, I know he's a good cook, whatever. And that oftentimes makes me feel like not woman enough, if you will, because I haven't yet mastered that expectation. And so if you have the same like feeling or sentiment, I'm glad you're not alone and I'm not alone. Okay. And so really it's important to kind of figure out the roots of this cultural expectations that we get and the pressures that we get to try to be this perfect cook in the kitchen. Well, like first of all, our cultura is deeply rooted in food. Okay. Food is at the center of celebrations. It is a way to express love and it is a symbol of family. These beautiful traditions can also come with a heavy weight. Historically, Latinas were often expected to take on the role as nurturers and really being responsible for nourishing their families. This expectation has evolved where people like in our generations were not really being so serious cooks, but we still feel that pressure to try to be this perfect cook. And so this sort of pressure still holds strong, really. And so many of us carry the weight of these like cherished family recipes. Like, for example, like las tortillas de mi abuelita. Like, I just cannot make tortillas hechas a mano. I can't. I have a comal, but I'm going to warm up tortillas that are already pre-made and that you can buy in the store. Like, no. And that's something that my mom has shared, that she cannot make tortillas hechas a mano. And as much as she's tried, like she cannot replicate the same way as my grandma does. And so the thought of not being able to replicate our family's special dishes, it often makes us feel like we are a failure. But here's the thing. It is okay. For example, your tortillas don't look the same as theirs. Or if you just end up buying them at the grocery store, like it is okay. These are just dishes, and the true magic is in the love and memories they hold. And so I still have the privilege of having my abuelita. And whenever she's around, like here in the US, because she lives in Mexico with my grandpa, we always tell my grandma, like, abuelita, you got to make us tortillas. Like, she cannot leave the US unless she makes us a batch of tortillas. And these are memories that I'm always going to hold. And now that my kids are around and love her and interact with her, like it is so cute. She makes little tortillitas for the kiddos. And so I think that that is what makes meaning behind not just like trying to live up to this expectation of being the perfect cook, but having the sense of connection that you can have with your family members. And so really, let's be honest, the pressure to be a perfect cook feeds into the larger societal expectation also of trying to be the perfect woman. And we're supposed to be successful at work, raise amazing children, and still whip up a gourmet meal every night. Like, we know that it is an unrealistic ideal and it's time to let it go. So whether if you are someone who always orders in because you have the budget to do so, or if you're someone that meal preps and does like very basic 30-minute meals, or if you are someone that has their partner do the cooking for you, like it is totally okay. We don't have to live up to this expectation of being this perfect mujer. All right. So how do we break free from these expectations and reclaim the kitchen as a place of joy and not pressure? Well, here are some ideas. Focus on the experience. Cooking can be a fun and creative activity. Explore new flavors, experiment with recipes, and make it a time to connect with yourself or your family as well. Have your little ones participate in this and have fun. Celebrate imperfection. It's okay if your dish doesn't turn out picture perfect. And this is something that I have to learn. Trust me, there are many times when I've given up and then Alex takes on the rest because I'm like, this doesn't look like the picture. I need to think about, okay, well, first of all, these are bloggers that probably had to do this trial and error a ton of times to create this picturesque view of their dish. And so sometimes the best meals are the ones made with love, laughter, and a few unexpected twists. And I thank Alex, my husband, for that, because if something goes off, he adds his own spin and then creates this delicious meal. And so I'm someone who needs to learn from that as well. And finally, share the responsibility. Don't be afraid to delegate tasks in the kitchen. Get your partner and kids involved in meal prep and cooking. I cannot stress this enough. It is so important to keep everyone involved because, again, if we don't want to live up to this image of being the perfect cook and the nurturer and this perfect mom who is serving their meals, no, we're no longer in those leave it to beaver times. No. And so if you feel like you put too much pressure on yourself in the kitchen, like myself, for example, then tell your partner, hey, cook and involve the kids, or have this be a full family activity. Whatever it is, just don't put that pressure that you are the one who should be cooking, because there is no rule that you should be in the kitchen. That's just old school mentality. I know that sometimes it's hard to break those expectations, but let's be real. We are in different times. We are in a different generation, and you are a model and setting an example for what you want your kids to see and do in their future. Okay, so ultimately, mamas, let's rewrite the script on what it means to be a Latina in the kitchen. We can honor our traditions while creating a more balanced and joyful approach to cooking. Remember, your worth is not defined by your culinary skills. However, are you feeling overwhelmed by the pressure to be the perfect cook? You are not alone. Join our supportive community on Instagram, which is Viva la Mami, where we're all about ditching the guilt and embracing a more joyful approach to madrehood. And you are more than happy to reach out to me via DMs, or you can email me at contact@vivalamami.com. And let's chat about how we can rewrite this narrative on what it means to be a Latina in the kitchen. Because it is time to change that, and I'm giving you that ticket and freedom to make your own meaning of what you want to do in the kitchen. And if you don't want to cook, that is totally fine. All right? Okay, mamas. Well, thank you so much for listening. Hasta la próxima, and I'll see you in the next episode. Mujer, thank you so much for taking the time out of your busy schedule to listen to the Viva la Mami podcast. If you enjoyed today's episode, will you do me a favor and follow the podcast and leave a rating and review? Hitting that follow button and reviewing my show will allow other mommies like you find this podcast. Your review will also tell me if you enjoy the show, so I would truly appreciate your thoughts. Don't forget, please share this podcast con tus amigas. Also, make sure to follow me at Viva la Mami on Instagram or visit vivalamami.com. Please note the information shared in this podcast is for educational purposes only and should not be taken as professional advice. Okay, mujer, thank you for joining y nos vemos in the next episode.